Hello everybody, welcome back to the AdvancedVape channel. Today we're taking a look at the GLAZ RTA V2 by STEAMCRAVE. So I have this and one other STEAMCRAVE review and then one other Watofo review, and then we're going to kind of set those aside for a while because I've been doing a lot of reviews on those. They've sent me a bunch of stuff, but I don't want this to be the Watofo and STEAMCRAVE channel, so we're going to look at some other stuff after I get these reviews done. Talking about the GLAZ V2, I've had this for a little while and I've been working with it. I've kind of just gone back and forth on it and been using it for a while now. So they sent this to me several weeks ago. This is the updated version of the GLAZ RTA that I did a review on previously, and I really like that tank, although it had some problems with durability. The glass broke easily, and that was basically down to the fact that the construction of it was glass on metal, and it ended up with the glass breaking. And on my V1, it's the plastic in there now because the other glass broke. So in the V2, they added this kind of metal cage in there to make it much more durable, and I haven't had any issues as far as the durability goes. So there's this kind of metal support there now, and the glass is a lot sturdier. It also comes with a bubble glass section. I have not tried that. And also a replacement inner chamber bell thing and another replacement glass. As well as the typical O-rings and little T driver thing. So the changes to this, from what I understand, the main changes are the cage thing that I just mentioned. The deck is a little bit redesigned and there's a little bit more airflow. So if I take this off, the airflow is redesigned. It's kind of little hook looking things there now. This used to look almost like the Reload with a curved airflow section to kind of sit the coil in. And now it's a very sharp angle. I'm presuming that is to bring the airflow up and make it come sideways and hit the coil. So that really changes this tank. These little side pieces totally change the way that this tank feels. The actual build deck is pretty much the same. It's got the kind of X shape postless design. Wicking is pretty close to the same from what I can tell, although the performance of the wicking is different. So I think I'll just go on and put a build on here and go through the dry fire really quick, and we'll get to actually testing it. There's not anything really different as far as building on this. It's easy to build on, and so I'm probably just going to skip through that part. I'm going to be using 5-wrap 30 gauge hex-core on this. So I'll go on and fast forward through the build. I've experimented a lot with the coil positioning on this. There's not really any position that I can definitively say is the best way to position these. On the V1, I just kind of set them down in those curves, and it worked perfectly. On this one, it's a little bit more open to interpretation because of the way those little kind of hooks go. Putting them right up against there doesn't really work that well. Putting them too far forward doesn't work too well either. So I'm just kind of doing it somewhere in between there. So there's not a lot of airflow that's not exposed to a coil from what I can see. This is just kind of in the middle. And from what I can see, that's what works the best. But it's not. There's not a position that is just definitely better. Okay, while that's cooling down for just a second, I'll talk about the wicking. The wicking on this seems to be very finicky. I know it was a little bit finicky on the V1, but I've had a harder time getting this tank to be wicked the way that I like it. So if I'm using big coils in here, I need it to wick quickly, but obviously I don't want it to leak. So that line between wicking fast enough and leaking seems to be really thin on this. I've had some issues with it leaking before where it seems like it's wicked okay, and then I'll go to refill it and it just leaks like crazy. And then I've also, pushed the wicks down in there more and it's bordering on a dry hit. It's just completely not enough. So I'm going to do my best, but it seems a little bit finicky on this. And I'm cutting it at the base of the deck. This is definitely on the lighter side for wicking this, but I have those channels totally blocked. There's no air gaps in there. So ideally, it would not leak like this. It uses the slide top fill, same as the V1. It's still cool that you can see the build deck. I really like that. You can also watch how saturated the cotton is during that. Okay, so we're going to give this a try at 120 maybe. Getting a little bit of leakage, but that's probably because of how much juice I put on the cotton when I was priming it. As you can see, it's fairly saturated, not super saturated, and right now it's giving me a really strong throat hit from the, I don't know if it's the juice I'm using or something, but it's very strong. I don't normally get this throat hit from this juice on other things, but on this one it's a little much. If you can see, the wicking is slowing down a little bit. The flavor is good, but the wick speed is just not as consistent as I want it to be. I find myself kind of burping this thing a little more often than I probably would like to. So, like opening it to make it fill up the cotton with juice. Ideally, you shouldn't ever have to do that. But I feel like if I already kind of wicked it light, and if I lift that cotton up a little bit, it's going to leak when I refill it. The throat hit has gone away and the flavor is going up. It does have good flavor. It has more air than the V1 in my opinion, and I feel like the coil positioning is where I want it to be. It's good, so I would recommend putting them about where I did. And those were 3mm, by the way. If I did 3.5, I think it would be too much cotton. The flavor is not super strong. It is good, but it's not amazing or anything. I think if you like the GLAZ RTA, you would probably like this tank as well. I like the durability increase, and as always, it's easy to build on, but the wicking is just really finicky for me. I've built on this, I'm not even sure how many times. It's been quite a few. Just working with it and trying to get it to behave how I want it to. So yeah, it's just a little bit finicky. And if you can see the wicks now, they're right on the border of wicking fast enough. It still vapes fine as far as the concentration of the juice. It's not, doesn't feel like it's about to dry hit, but I would like it to wick a little bit faster. But like I said, I'm afraid to lift the cotton up, so I end up burping it. I think overall, I like this tank, but it has some caveats. That wicking that I've said over and over again is the main thing. I think it would probably perform better with smaller coils in there. You can't go too small because the airflow is more, so it's kind of a balancing act. I tend to prefer large coils, but it is just a little bit more airy. It's still on the restricted side as far as the 30mm RTA. There's other ones out there with way more airflow. So it's not airy, but it's not super restrictive either. It's definitely not like the Reload as far as restricted level, and the V1 reminded me the V1 reminded me of the Reload, but this one is just something different. I feel like it's reached a steady state now where it's giving me good flavor and performance. All of that is after having worked with it as long as I have, though. So my final message on this, I think, is it does have good flavor and performance, but I had to work with it a lot. It's finicky. So I think that'll bring us to the end of this video about the GLAZ RTA V2 by STEAMCRAVE. If you like this video on our channel, give us a like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, leave them below in the comments or send me an email. In the next video, we're going to be looking at a Wotofo thing, like I mentioned, and then one more STEAMCRAVE, and we're moving on to something different. So I will see you then. Thanks.